You don't imagine it, you endure it. You walk into a room and feel the weight of unspoken tension before a single word is said. You sense moods hanging in the air like smoke, invisible but suffocating. The polite smiles, the easy laughter, they feel thin to you, almost brittle. You know who will carry joy, who will carry poison, who will leave the room quietly broken. You predict outcomes, trace patterns in the arcs of behavior, feel the subtle shifts in intention before they even take shape. It isn't luck, it isn't mere intuition, it's exposure. You carry the lives of others as if they were layered over your own skin. You think it's a gift, and it is, but it is also a curse. Jung warned that when introverted intuition dominates, you are forced to live in two realities at once. One is the world everyone else inhabits, the tangible, the ordinary, the visible. The other is the inner world of patterns, symbols, and anticipations, running ahead of events, reading the hidden seams in human behavior. The seam between these realities is sharp, and it cuts you silently over time, leaving traces in your relationships, your body, your mind. Without structure, this gift corrodes. You don't just absorb what happens, you anticipate it, you pre-experience it, you feel the repercussions before they occur. And the weight of foresight can become unbearable. You avoid certain people, those who rot rooms with their charm, whose energy drags at your clarity. You shrink from social settings that others find harmless because your senses are already full, already taxed by unchosen information. You don't read people. People happen to you. You notice subtleties others dismiss, a hesitation, a tremor, a flicker of intention, and it shapes your day, your decisions, your very energy. Jung didn't call you dangerous to others. He called you dangerous to yourself. There is a quiet violence in being aware before the rest of the world catches up. You carry a double-edged sword, foresight that isolates, clarity that alienates, empathy that exhausts. And yet, it is not a flaw. It is a structure of consciousness that demands mastery. If ignored, the gift can corrode relationships, make you restless in your own skin, haunt you with visions no one else can validate. But there is a map. In this journey, you will trace the warning signs, confront the hidden pitfalls, and discover the path toward integration. This isn't theory, it's survival. It's the labor of translating the unseen into life that can be lived without dissolving into it. Before we go further, if you find yourself in these words, if Jung's mirror feels uncomfortably accurate, you'll want to stay with me. Subscribe now so you don't just watch these truths, you return to them when the noise of the world tries to make you forget. You wake in the morning with fragments of dreams that feel like warnings. A face appears repeatedly, a smile, then unsettles you. Patterns emerge in your thoughts before events unfold in reality. You notice connections others overlook, arcs of behavior that repeat, people who leave echoes of themselves in rooms long after they've gone. This is your intuition speaking, not paranoia. And yet, you ask yourself, am I gifted or am I simply exhausted? Anxiety can masquerade as foresight. Hypervigilance can feel like clarity. There is a subtle difference. True intuition arrives with calm clarity. It doesn't spike your heart into panic. It doesn't keep you awake with repetitive what-ifs. It whispers. It observes. It knows without needing constant validation. After social interactions, you feel it. A residue of others' moods and energies clinging to your body, a heaviness that lingers long after the conversation has ended. You might recognize it as the familiar weight of being an intuitive introvert, the internal tallying of unspoken emotions, the silent accounting of interpersonal dynamics that no one else even sees. You recall the office meeting last week. You knew exactly who would resign before anyone announced it. You said nothing, remained still, and watched. Later, when it came to pass, a strange dissonance unsettled you. You're right, and yet, the satisfaction was hollow. You hated being right. This is where Carl Jung's wisdom intersects with Adler's practical insights. Your inferior function, sensation, offers the anchor you so desperately need. Without it, you drift. Patterns float unmoored. The world feels simultaneously familiar and alien, and you are caught between the two. Early life strategies that once kept you safe continue to operate beneath the surface, shaping interactions, guiding judgments, and sometimes leading you into exhaustion disguised as insight. If this is uncomfortably accurate and you want tools, not fluff, to navigate this life, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Here we approach psychology with rigor and honesty. Jung, Nietzsche, Adler, they aren't just names. They're applied instruments, not idols. Knowing the difference between intuition and anxiety, between resonance and overload, is your first act of self-preservation. By observing, differentiating, and attending to the body's subtle signals, you reclaim the space that belongs to you. You can track patterns without merging into them. You can predict outcomes without being consumed by them. The journey of an intuitive introvert is not one of passive suffering. It is a careful calibration, a slow and deliberate reclamation of psychic sovereignty. By learning to recognize the signs of exhaustion versus the gifts of insight, you protect your mind, your relationships, and your energy. You honor the double life you live, walking the scene between seen and unseen without losing yourself to it. You feel the weight of your gift, and with it comes a danger few understand. Carl Jung warned that intuition, untempered, carries hidden crashes, distortions of a strength that can devour the very soul it seeks to illuminate. The first crash is subtle, seductive, almost invisible. You begin to see yourself as a figure larger than life, a seer, a savior, a martyr. Archetypes stop being weather systems you observe. You start to inhabit them. Grand missions replace ordinary moments. Mundanity feels intolerable. You withdraw into moral loneliness, believing that only your vision can carry the truth. Nietzsche would call it a form of hubris, disguised as virtue, a pride that masquerades as higher purpose. You are not just predicting the storm, you think you must become it. The second crash seeps into the edges of your boundaries. You absorb what you read, what you hear, what you feel from others. Mood merges with mood, symptom borrows symptom. You fix compulsively, not because anyone asked, but because your psyche mistakes their chaos for your task. The line between yours and theirs blurs until you no longer know where you end. Adler called it a failure of task separation. Jung named it projection and participation mystique. You live with a leaky psyche, and each hole lets in another fragment that is not yours, yet you carry it as if it were. The third crash is the most insidious. Everything becomes an omen, every coincidence a message, every shadow a signal. Reality bends to the interpretations of your unconscious until you cannot tell what is a real threat and what is the mind's echo. Synchronicity becomes addiction. Conspiracy feels inevitable. Practical life collapses beneath symbolic obsession. Jung warned of being seized by the contents of the unconscious. Freud reminded us that the reality principle must remain the ballast, or the psyche capsizes. Each of these crashes is not a flaw, but a distortion of your gift. The God mask tempts you to play roles not meant for you. The leaky psyche drains energy and autonomy. Symbolic drift risks losing the world entirely to omens and invisible signals. The pain of each is the shadow cast by your strength. The payoff lies in containment, in learning to hold without merging, to observe without inhabiting, to predict without possessing. Archetypes are not storms to become. They are weather systems of the psyche, and your task is to navigate them, not to wear them as armor. Each crash teaches the same lesson in a different register. that power, insight, and foresight must be balanced with boundaries, grounded in reality, and disciplined by presence. To ignore this is to risk the gift corroding into obsession, the mind into mania, and the body into exhaustion. You're walking the edge between knowing and being consumed. Every vision, every insight, every foreknowledge carries a cost if not held with care. Jung's dark warning is simple. Your intuition is a knife. Wield it without awareness, and it cuts you first.
You have been living in your head, in the invisible folds of intuition so long that the body feels like a stranger. Yet Jung insisted the inferior function, the sensation, is not a weakness to shame, but a lifeline. Grounding isn't spiritual downtime, it is psychic insurance. You cannot translate the invisible if you refuse the weight of a frying pan, the texture of stone beneath bare feet, the sting of cold water on skin. Begin with friction. Walk barefoot across textured ground. Feel every grain, every ridge. Let the soles of your feet speak to you. Cold water finishes your morning. Heavy carrying, simple measurable labor. Lift, pull, press, repeat. The body remembers what the mind forgets. These acts are not trivial. They are anchors, tethers for your drifting awareness. Next, a signal diet. Dedicate 60 minutes each day to no inputs. No music, no podcasts, no digital whispers. Sit with yourself. Listen to your own baseline. Feel your pulse, your breath, the subtle rhythm that is yours alone. In these silences, intuition finds a container, a boundary against the flood. Finally, one mundane excellence. Cook, clean, repair. Mastery in matter reminds the psyche that value exists in the tangible. Jung called it the marriage of opposites within the psyche. Kierkegaard named it the courage to be oneself, body included. Each ordinary act is a declaration. You are here. You exist. You are not only mind. By returning to the body, you give form to your intuition. You build a vessel strong enough to carry foresight without being carried away by it. You transform psychic drift into deliberate motion, unspooling symbolic threads in a way that the body can hold and the mind can sustain. You cannot live between worlds without anchoring somewhere. The invisible cannot be translated without the tangible. The gift of intuition thrives only when it has a home in flesh, blood, and earth. You think you are helping, you think you are loving, but often the very gift you cherish becomes the stage for quiet games your ego plays. You rescue not because it is needed, but to regulate your own anxiety. You call it compassion, it is control. You call it depth, it is resentment disguised as virtue. You have felt the pang of being undervalued, the slow burn of invisible slights. So you hoard insight, you measure knowledge like currency. You give only fragments, keeping the rest as leverage. Intimacy becomes a transaction. Knowing becomes a shield, and yet, you claim it is selflessness. You tell yourself, I am wise, I see. In truth, you are protecting your fragile sense of significance. Even your boundaries are theater. You say, I need space, while remaining psychically open, alert to every vibration, every shift, every subtle mood. You are present and absent at once, performing a paradox of control and surrender. Nietzsche called this resentment, the will to power masquerading as depth. Adler would note the overcompensation, the shadow strategies embedded since childhood. Watts might smile at the absurdity. Control disguised as generosity is still control. Ask yourself quietly, am I needed? Am I special? Am I safe? If all three light up, pause. You are playing a game. You are caught in a loop of ego fuel where the gift that could serve becomes the stage for subtle bondage. Awareness is the first release. Naming the game is the first step to stepping off the stage. The insight you hold, the foresight that allows you to perceive what others cannot, is powerful. But untempered, It bends into patterns that entangle rather than illuminate. Your task is not to abandon the gift, but to observe your motives, to disentangle love from dependency, compassion from control. This is difficult work because the games are invisible to the one playing them. Yet each moment you recognize the pattern, you reclaim yourself. Each act of self-honesty is a boundary drawn in the psyche, a light held in the darkness, a bridge built between your inner world and the outer. You do not need to stop seeing. You do not need to stop feeling. You only need to see the games, to feel the currents beneath the currents, and to step with intention rather than reaction. You want to remain open. You want to feel, to perceive, to carry the unseen without letting it consume you. But without structure, your gift spills, leaving you drained and fragmented. Boundaries are not walls, they are irrigation. They channel the waters of your intuition, so they feed fields instead of flooding your own foundations. Start with attention. You cannot hold 10 streams at once, one channel at a time. Name what comes to you. My friend's fear, the tension in this room. Note its effect on your body and narrow your focus to the task at hand. You observe without merging. You feel without absorbing. You participate without being possessed. Emotions must be felt and then filed. When sadness arrives, when anxiety pulses, stand, breathe 10 times, shake your limbs. Label what is yours and what is not. This is not avoidance, it is conscious discrimination. You give your intuition room to move without letting it pull your life into its orbit. Jung called this the ability to separate consciousness from the contents of the psyche. Modern research confirms it. Naming what we feel reduces contamination. Time, too, demands boundaries. Office hours for the unconscious. Evening slots to write symbols, to track synchronicities, to dialogue with your inner images, and then close the session. You are not available to the archetypes 24/7. You are their translator, not their servant. Practice the scripts quietly, word for word. I care about this. It isn't mine to fix. Let me think on that and get back with a practical next step. You say them not to others alone, but to yourself, anchoring your own psyche. Through attention, emotion, and time, you transform permeability into precision. You remain empathic without leaking. You stay intuitive without becoming addicted to every pulse, every shadow, every silent tremor in a room. You become a steward of your gift. Boundaries are not punishment. They are the scaffolding that allows the gift to flourish. You channel energy where it matters. You hold space without dissolving into it. You translate symbols without becoming the symbol. The work is subtle but transformative. With each day of disciplined practice, your openness becomes your strength rather than your liability. You stay present, grounded, and effective. You honor the currents of your intuition while keeping your feet firmly planted in reality. Your intuition is a gift, but left unchanneled, it becomes a curse. Sight without use is weight. Perception without application is noise. You feel too much, see too far, predict outcomes that never ask for your permission. What if you could turn that into service rather than suffering? Some become artisans, painting, writing, composing the archetypes into culture, making what is unseen tangible for others. Some become analysts, turning patterns into systems, translating intuition into strategy, into structure, into foresight that guides. Others step into healing or coaching, reflecting without merging, mirroring without absorbing. Leaders foresee trajectories, protecting their teams from the storms they themselves detect. Ethical intuition demands 4 rules. Consent, do not impose your visions on another's reality. Context, know where your insight belongs. Concreteness, translate the abstract into actionable steps. Consequence, track outcomes, measure impact, remain accountable. If your visions do not feed a table, a timeline, or a soul, they remain raw. They are still the weight of an unharvested storm. By turning intuition into vocation, you align the unconscious with purpose, the gift with the practical,
the abstract with ethics. You become a bridge rather than a burden. Integration is visible in small but profound ways. Sleep becomes deeper. Urgent messages carry less sting. Projects reach completion. The world stops feeling like it is constantly dangling by omen and intuition. You rest more, act more, and see the patterns without being dragged into them. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming your own complete self while offering your uniqueness to the world. Schopenhauer prized clarity over cleverness, knowing that raw insight is dangerous unless tempered by discernment. Adler reminded us that social interest, the sense of shared humanity, is the compass that directs talent towards usefulness rather than indulgence. You translate the invisible into something others can hold. You feed not only your own psyche, but the world around you. Sight becomes service. Awareness becomes action. Presence becomes power without dominance. The path is not easy. The temptation to merge, to fix, to rescue, to overextend is constant. But with discipline, you learn to serve without being drained, to perceive without being possessed, to help without losing yourself. Your gift becomes a vocation, a practice, a living bridge between what is seen and what is needed.
You see too much. You feel too fast. You carry too far. Every pulse, every shadow, every silent tremor in a room is cataloged inside you. It is not weakness. It is not brokenness. You are broadband. You are a network, not a single wire. You do not need a mute button. You need a router. You will anchor the body. You will translate the symbol. You will guard the boundary. You will choose usefulness over drama. You will ferry what you see without letting it drown you. You will measure, contain, and give form to what is formless. Picture yourself as a harbor. Around you, storms rage. Archetypes, impulses, unspoken truths. Ships approach. People, projects, relationships. Some carry treasure, some carry wreckage. Your duty is to keep the waters navigable. You are the calm in the currents, the lighthouse for the lost, the channel through which meaning passes safely. You are not here to drown in meaning. You are here to ferry it. The world does not need more prophets. It needs translators. Walk light. Anchor deep. Let what you see become what we can use. Notice the crashes you recognize: God mask, leaky psyche, symbolic drift, and consider the tools you will try this week. Comment, reflect, share. This is not just observation. This is practice. This is community. This is the work of a bridge builder. And when the next episode comes, when we explore shadow contracts and the bargains your unconscious makes with your relationships, you will be ready. Not overwhelmed, not lost, but poised to translate, to contain, to serve. You are the harbor. You are the channel. You are the translator. If this resonates and you want more guidance on mastering your intuition, protecting your boundaries, and translating your insights into real-life power, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Join us as we navigate the depths together.